again, it's Scott here. Look, I've put a video together on how to change the spring on the rear shocky on the CBR600RR. Now I've got an Ohlins rear shocky, but the concept's the same, even with the standard one. So I've decided to go to a harder spring. I was running a 10 Newton metre and I've now gone to an 11 Newton metre. So I'll show you how I do it using my homemade spring compressor. So I hope you find this useful. I'm about to change a spring on my rear Ohlins shock. So I've already taken it out, and there is a video on how to remove the shock if you need to know how to do that. Here's my new spring here, 11 Newton meters. And what I did many years ago is I made my own spring compressor. Very simple to make. And I have a couple of plates there with where I ground out a radius just to follow the curve or the circumference of the shock. So with this plate here I've got slotted holes in it so you can move it around. Got plenty of adjustment there to allow for different size shockies, and the other side here pretty well leave that fixed because I find that's enough for most shockies. Not a difficult thing to make, and bear in mind that the majority of rear shocks, both OEM and Ohlins, they're generally around 300mm long. And what I've done here is I've just made up this frame that takes a hydraulic jack. So here's my old hydraulic jack, and I just drop that onto there like that. And I made that distance so that it sits either side of the wheels on the inside there. And you've also got a hook here that hooks onto the rear axle. It's just a safety feature so it can't shoot forward. And then I made up this fitting here that just bolts to the base plate of the jack, and then I just use the 10mm bolt to go through the eye of the shock. So I'll show you how quick it is to change the spring. But basically I want to compress the spring to be able to take this retainer off. So you put it in upside down, like that. Bolt through. You can see how the spring fits onto the base plates there. So now I just operate the jack and I'll push the shocky up, and I'll just take out that, I don't like putting my fingers in there, I just take the retaining ring off. It just slips over the shaft like that. So it goes in like that. So now that I've taken the ring off, I just let the jack down. And take the spring off. I'm just going to interrupt the video for a moment just to show you how easy it is to take the spring off the OEM shock. It's a similar arrangement. There's a retainer at the top here, and in this case I have to compress the collar here that holds the adjustable cam, so the two plates will push against that. I'll push that down. This this will come up and I can pull the retainer off. So I'll just show you how to do that in case you ever want to remove the spring off your OEM. Different to the Ohlins. It's the same concept. So I can adjust my plates here. Adjusting the plates to and then just lift the retainer up and take it out. So you pull it apart. Very easy. Go back to your deal again, put that on. Put the adjustable collar on. So that's how quick and easy it was to do the OEM spring. So here's the new spring that I'm going to use, and with most shocks you want about 12 to 14 millimeters preload. And all that is the difference between the free length, which in this case is 148 millimeters, and the compressed length once you put it on the shocky without any load on it. So basically I have to set this now so that when I put the spring on it will be 14 millimeters shorter. So I'll need to adjust these rings here. That's the hydraulic preload adjuster, but I'll need to adjust these rings here to get that required preload. Now remember, you don't just measure that. You know, some people will put the retaining ring on. I'll put the retaining ring on like that, and then measure, and forget that there's a top-out spring in here. So if I pull on that, I can actually pull that shaft out. It probably comes out about another 5 millimeters. So you've got to remember that the top-out spring holds that in. So don't make that error. Okay, I've clamped the shocky in the vise here. I've got aluminium jaws there to protect the eye. I've loosened the clamp on the preload handle there, so I can slide that off. Whoops. And then I can just pull that down out of the way. I do, I just clamp it on the top ring. And then just with a punch here I can just tap the locking ring and done. So this is convenient because the thread pitch is 1 millimetre, so one turn is 1 millimetre. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to set the preload at 12 millimetres, and then I will require 2 turns on the hydraulic preload adjuster to give me the 14. So it just gives me a little bit of leeway either side. So I'm going to turn this, the top one, back 2 turns. And that little groove there must stay in line with the eye, because that pin on the hydraulic adjuster slots into that groove. There's one. And 2. I can do the locking ring up. So that groove there is in line. Now I'll just tighten the locking ring, and tap it. So that goes up into that groove, it can go there, and then this washer goes on to there. So now we can go put the spring back on. Tighten the clamp up here. Okay, let's check this. So the preload is wound off, so there's no additional preload from the hydraulic adjuster. So that's 136, which is what I wanted. So 136 from 148 is 12 millimetres. So I want another 2 millimetres on this, so I want to get it to 134. So let's wind a bit of this on. One turn should do it, I think. Yeah, so that's 134, which is the 14 millimetres of preload. So now that's ready to go back in the bike.